I was closing up the restaurant that I work at one evening. Everyone had left. I had stayed a little later than usual just to tighten up a few things. It was close to 1:30 a.m. I was beat. I had been there all day since about 11 o'clock that morning. The restaurant that I worked at was kind of on the outskirts of town. It was an older building, but it had some charm. It had a long driveway that separated it from the road about 300 feet. Behind it was a very thick patch of woods. It would get very dark at night as there was limited lighting in our gravel parking lot. Normally I would leave with the kitchen guys after they were finished. But as I said, that night I stayed a little later. I hated leaving that place by myself at night. I was doing my final walkthrough, checking the doors and turning off all the lights, while at the same time chatting with my girlfriend on FaceTime. She knew I was there alone and she wanted to stay on the phone with me until I got to my car, which was our normal routine whenever I would close the place by myself. I was in the middle of telling her something that happened earlier when her facial expression changed. She looked freaked out and began to say something, but we got cut off. As I mentioned, the restaurant was outside of town, so the reception could get a little spotty at times. I made my way back to lock up the office and she was calling me back. I knew immediately that something was wrong. There was fear and panic in her voice. She said she saw something strange when we were on the phone. There was something in the background behind me. She said she saw someone or something hanging from the ceiling when I was walking through the restaurant. Maybe she saw a ceiling fan at a weird angle or something like that. Still on the phone, I grabbed a flashlight and circled the whole restaurant again. There was nothing to see, and just as I was telling her there was nothing to worry about, I lost the signal again. At least she knows that I'm okay, I thought to myself. I was still curious as to what she saw. I wanted to go check it out one last time. I went back to where she thought she saw something and shined the flashlight to the ceiling. I noticed that one of the ceiling panels was open. I started to feel like something wasn't right. I went to call my girlfriend back. As I was dialing her, I thought I noticed something standing in the darkness. I shined the flashlight in that direction. I could have died from fear right then and there. Standing there before me was a psychopathic-looking man staring me dead in the eye. I was so startled I dropped my phone. He was terrifying to the eye. I honestly couldn't tell if that was his real face or if he was wearing a mask. His eyes were bulging and bloodshot. He was holding a hunting knife that looked at least a foot in length. He just stood there, like a madman, staring me dead in the eye. In that split second, I had pieced it all together. This maniac somehow got into our ceiling and waited for everyone to leave, only to come down to rob the place. Or possibly worse. I wasn't going to wait to find out. I booked it to the back door of the restaurant. I could hear him chasing me. I then realized my car keys were in the back office. There was no way I could outrun him if I went outside. I made a split decision to lock myself in the office and call the police. I got to the office, and as I shut the door, I could see him running full speed towards me with the knife still in his hand. I quickly locked the door and grabbed the office phone to call 911. Just as I was dialing, I heard this thundering thud. He kicked the door so hard the doorknob itself almost broke off. It wasn't a heavy-duty door. I knew it would be kicked down easily. I had to make a choice. The phone was a landline on the other side of the office. I couldn't call 911 and hold the door at the same time. The phone was already ringing. I didn't have time to wait for an answer, so I left it on the desk with the receiver side up. I desperately began to shout the address and that there was someone inside trying to kill me. And the whole time, I was absorbing the violent thuds from this psycho trying to kick the door in. I knew there was no way the police would arrive before he would smash down the door. It felt like any next kick would be the one to break it down. I even shouted out to tell my girlfriend I loved her. I literally thought it was the end for me. That's when I heard the back door slam open, followed by some shouting. The kitchen guys busted in the back door with baseball bats and tire irons. Thankfully, they hadn't left yet. They were in the parking lot drinking some beers and had heard my screams and the pounding. The freak bolted out the front door when he saw them. The cops eventually came, but it was well after everything had happened. I have no idea who that maniac was, or why he chose our specific restaurant. For a while I was scared he was specifically coming for me for some reason. Maybe I pissed off the wrong person somewhere. Some months later, a few counties over, a restaurant owner was found slain on the dining room floor by his employees the next morning. No robbery was committed, just a brutal slaying. Killer was never found. Stay safe out there.